Fox News pastor and Donald Trump advisor Robert Jeffress spoke about the issue of DACA and immigration, and he has a somewhat surprising take. Let's watch.
Religious leaders taking a strong stance on DACA. In a letter to the Speaker of the House, Paul Ryan, 3,400 church leaders wrote, quote, "As Christians, we believe that all immigrants are made in the image of God, deserving to be treated with dignity. From Abraham to Paul, many biblical heroes were themselves immigrants, including even Jesus. As Americans, we are proud that our country has affirmed this biblical principle of valuing and protecting immigrants while also protecting national security." But our next guest says the Bible shouldn't be used for immigration policy. Robert Jeffress is the senior pastor of First Baptist Dallas and a Fox News contributor. Good morning to you, Pastor.
Good morning, Ainsley.
So tell me about this letter that you penned to the Speaker. Why to the Speaker, and what made you all do this?
Well, first of all, I did not sign the letter. I was not a signatory on that letter. And look, I think that these leaders got one component of this immigration debate right, talking about Christian compassion. I mean, Jesus said we're to love our neighbors as ourselves, and that our neighbors are not just people like us, but people different than us. But while Christian compassion is one consideration, it's not the only consideration in the immigration problem. I mean, the Bible also says that God's the one who established nations and its borders. God is not necessarily an open borders guy, as a lot of people would think that he is. And thirdly, the Bible says God has ordained government to protect its citizens. So when you're talking about a biblical solution to immigration, yes, we need to talk about compassion, but we need to balance that with government's real responsibility to protect its citizens.
Isn't that what they're saying, though? They're saying valuing and protecting immigrants while also protecting national security.
They are, but I think they tend to lean on the side of compassion and don't balance it like it should. For example, this week we had the Pope once again lambasting President Trump for not doing enough for immigration. And I think these leaders and the Pope are sincere, but they're sincerely confused about the difference between the church and government. And so I think we need to keep those roles distinct.
Yeah, it's tough because the Bible does tell us to honor our authorities, to follow the rule of law, to follow all of the laws, and the laws are clear in this situation, but also have compassion for others. So it is a tough topic. Thank you, Pastor Jeffress, for joining us.
That's awesome. We finally found an issue that makes a right-wing fundamentalist pastor argue for secularism. Anytime you mention the happy parts of the Bible. So, you know, if you read the Bible, there's countless passages that talk about the sojourners, and hey, you got to treat them like your brother, you got to treat them like your own, treat them as kind as anybody else, you have to welcome them, you have to let them know that your land is their land. And so on the issue of immigration, that's one where the Bible is like crystal clear. On virtually every issue, there's contradictions in the Bible, but one where it's seemingly streamlined across the board is that you're supposed to treat immigrants, sojourners, great. So what does this guy do when presented with that? Like, hey man, you know, you're a Christian, you love following Christianity, and maybe the Christian thing to do is to not deport 800,000 dreamers. Maybe the Christian thing to do is to not, you know, randomly deport people and be punitive on this issue. And he's like, well, no, you know, what we got to do is keep government and religion separate. That's what we got to do. Interesting. So you never say that when it comes to abortion. You never say that when it comes to gay marriage. You never say that when the stuff in the Bible you think is on your side. And by the way, it's not. We've gone over and over. There are passages in the Bible that literally advocate abortion. If your wife cheats on you, the Bible advocates her getting an abortion. She has to drink the bitter water, which forces her to have a miscarriage, also known as an abortion. When it comes to gay marriage, there are definitely passages in the Bible that are anti-gay. So on that issue, he's like, oh yeah, totally, we got to follow the Bible. The government, you know, we need to have the government follow the dictates of God, obviously. But now on the issue of immigration, he's like, wait a minute, I'm secular. I love secularism. Separate church and state. And no doubt he would do the same shit if you go read the passages when, you know, Jesus talks about economic issues. I mean, Jesus was a Marxist before Marxism existed. Jesus makes Noam Chomsky look like Ann Coulter. I mean, this is a guy, what's he going to do? He's going to be in favor of a privatized healthcare system. He's in favor of denying people healthcare and not having free college and not having a living wage. And no, this guy is the champion of redistribution of wealth. I mean, he really is a super far lefty. So you bring up any of those passages, and he'll make the same point. No, but what you got to do is you have to separate religion from state. I love secularism. But again, hypocrite to the max, because on any issue where he thinks the Bible is on his side, abortion and gay marriage, even though it's not necessarily on his side on those issues, he thinks it is. He's like, yeah, no, we got to implement the Bible on this one. So it's fucking hilarious. These guys are hypocrites. What he does is he has a right-wing Republican ideology, and he just cherry picks and says, I'm going to use that to justify my belief system, and where I can do that, I'll say we should implement that into law, and where I can't, I'll say, that's secularism, is separate, the government, and, what are you going to do? He said in there that we need to, these guys are too compassionate. We have to balance that with, other things. Yeah, right, just like Jesus said. Thou shalt not be too compassionate, lest ye make a bad decision. I believe that's in the Bible, right? What a joke this guy is. They're partisan Republicans before they're anything else, and a segment like this shows that very clearly.